A Fox Business Alert, President Obama's health care law faces its first challenge at the ballot box, and it loses badly. 71% of Missouri voters rejecting a key provision in the law which requires everyone to have insurance or pay a fine. But if you think that was lopsided, I want you to take a look at our poll on my Your World show on Fox News Channel. The page they're asking Missouri and whether it got it right. Over 16,000 of you voted. Nearly all would say the mandate has to go. There were a smattering, a couple of dozen or so who disagreed. We seem to suspect it's the same dude just hitting the key again and again and again. But can you believe that? Like 99.9%. It's like those Russian polls, but I think it's reliable. Anyway, Missouri Republican State Senator Jane Cunningham is not surprised. She was the sponsor of the measure. Senator, good to have you. I guess an issue is whether this goes very far, because it's a big deal to change federal law. Where do you think it goes?
You mean as far as Missouri law in contrast to federal law?
Yes.
I believe it's going to set up that lawsuit because they are contradictory of each other. But like 42 other states that worked on this measure, and about 10 of them that actually passed it in statute and still have it coming up as a constitutional amendment, it's going to work its way to the Supreme Court. And we feel like the question needs to be answered, which has never been answered by the Supreme Court of the United States of America. Does the federal government have such broad powers that they can actually force citizens of this country to buy a product, any product, with their own money against their own will?
And apparently 7 out of 10 Missourians said no, they don't. You know what's fascinating to me about this whole, I don't care where people stand on this, Senator, but I guess your legislature, they weren't even going to take this up. And the people got so you-know-what off that they said, are you kidding me? And took matters in their own hands, had a separate ballot initiative. This was like California Proposition 13 type deal. And they just went nuts, right?
Well, this was a referendum that went through the legislature and actually passed the legislature in Missouri by a bipartisan supermajority of 68%. It's interesting to see how the 71% vote is closely aligned with that, unlike how the citizens of this country feel and how Congress is responding. So they made a strong statement.
But obviously folks were ticked off enough to say, look, we don't feel enough is being done. Our top leaders aren't doing enough on this, so we are. Even though legal scholars say, argue though you might about whether it's right to argue whether the government can force you to buy insurance or whatnot. It's a big leap to change something that's been signed into law by Congress, and that's what we're up to here, right? I mean, that's what this is all about, trying to change something that has already become law, right?
Yes, it is. But there is precedent that there are some state statutes that have trumped federal statutes that seem to be unknown by some of the pundits out there. And the only people whose opinion is going to matter is those 9 people that sit on the Supreme Court.
You're right about
and that will look and address this.
And
yes.
You seem to think that's where it's going, don't you?
I do believe it will get there because it's going to come from all parts of the nation, not just Missouri. When you think that 84% of the states in the nation introduced this as legislation, with Missouri starting that domino yesterday, I have a feeling it's going to escalate all over the country.
Well, I think you're right about that. I do think it's going to the Supreme Court. Senator, a real pleasure having you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so far, great success from